The streets of Atlanta were still shrouded in that heavy gray silence only found in the earliest hours. Street lamps buzzed faintly. A stray dog trotted across Peachtree, its paws silent against damp asphalt. Camille Johnson gripped her steering wheel tighter as she pulled up to a red light. She'd been on the road since 5:15 a.m., and though her first cup of coffee was long gone, adrenaline kept her alert. Her phone vibrated violently on the passenger seat. Another order. She glanced at it, one from Chow Now, another from Grubdash, and two from Quick Bites stacked in like a cruel joke. Jesus, she muttered. 4 apps at once? I must hate myself. The voice in her GPS chirped its usual monotone. Turn left on Ponce de Leon. Pick up Lorenzo's Italian Bistro. ETA 6 minutes. She exhaled through her nose and made the turn. She had memorized every crack in Atlanta's streets, every bottleneck, every shortcut that Waze and Google Maps still hadn't learned. Lorenzo's sat on the corner of a quiet block, its windows still dark except for the faint glow of kitchen lights. But Rick Simmons, general manager and perennial worrier, was pacing out front, cigarette clamped between trembling fingers. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Camille, thank God you're early," his voice cracked. She parked in the delivery zone, tugged her cap lower over her curls, and stepped out. The cool morning air carried a faint scent of garlic and yeast from the kitchen. "Early? Rick, it's 6 a.m. Half the city's still in bed." "Yeah, well, half my drivers quit again last night. I'm drowning here." Camille arched an eyebrow. "Again?" He nodded vigorously. "This new delivery management software, RouteMax, it's killing us. They promised optimized deliveries, shorter wait times, driver retention. Instead, orders are late, tips are down, drivers are leaving mid-shift, customers are torching us on Yelp." She followed him inside. The kitchen was a war zone already. Bags of food piled high on counters, tickets fluttering like desperate cries for help. A monitor on the far wall blinked angrily. 22 orders late. Camille crossed her arms. "Looks like RouteMax is doing the opposite of optimizing." Rick rubbed his temples. "We've called support a dozen times. They insist everything's working fine." Camille stepped closer to the monitor. Color-coded lines sprawled across the map of Atlanta, routes assigned to drivers, zigzagging like tangled spaghetti. A small blinking alert in the corner caught her eye. Delivery window overlap detected. "Rick, you know what this means?" He shrugged helplessly. "They told me it's not critical." "Not critical? Looks like your drivers are being sent from Midtown to Decatur and back twice in an hour. That's a suicide route in traffic." Rick's eyes widened. "Wait, you're saying it's the system's fault, not my drivers?" "It's both, but mostly the system." She glanced at the pile of tickets. "Can I try something?" "Be my guest. I'll try voodoo at this point." Camille found a pen and paper and got to work. Years of delivering in Atlanta had given her an almost photographic memory of the city's layout. She sketched sectors, Midtown, Buckhead, Old Fourth Ward, and began grouping orders into tight clusters. "Stop sending drivers across town every 5 minutes," she said without looking up. "Assign them to zones. No backtracking, no crisscrossing." Rick hovered nervously. "But RouteMax doesn't let us override assignments." "Then assign them manually. You still know how to call drivers, right?" Within 20 minutes, Camille had a handwritten schedule with clearly defined zones and efficient routes. She handed it to Rick. "Tell your drivers to stick to this. No deviations." Rick blinked at the papers like they were ancient scrolls. "You sure about this?" "Sure enough to bet your Yelp rating." 2 hours later, Rick watched in stunned silence as the monitor's angry red lights began to fade. Late orders dropped from 22 to 7. 2 drivers texted to say the new routes were actually sane. Customers weren't calling to complain. Rick turned to Camille, his mouth agape. How did you—" "Experience," she interrupted simply. RouteMax was built by coders, not drivers. It knows nothing about Midtown gridlocks or that one cursed intersection on Edgewood." You've just done more in 2 hours than their entire tech team in 6 months." Rick's voice was almost reverent. "Camille? I think you saved us." She gave a small, tired smile. "Don't thank me yet. This is just a bandage. You still need a real fix." Rick nodded rapidly. Would you consider consulting for us? Not just Lorenzo's. I mean, I can call some other managers. They're all drowning." Camille glanced at her phone. Another order pinged, another tight deadline, another impatient customer. But something inside her shifted. She'd spent years running orders for pennies on the dollar, bending over backward for systems that never cared if she made it home safe or ate dinner before midnight. Maybe it was time she stopped running and started building. "Rick," she said slowly, "what if I told you I could fix this for everyone?" The smell of marinara clung to Camille's jacket as she stepped out of Lorenzo's and back into the morning chill. Her phone buzzed with another incoming order, but for once, she ignored it. Rick's words still echoed in her head. Consulting. For all the restaurants. It sounded ridiculous. Her? A delivery driver who still lived in a cramped studio apartment and hustled 12-hour days? She shook her head, almost laughing at the thought. But as she walked to her car, she saw 2 other delivery drivers, new faces, young and nervous, arguing with a Lorenzo's line cook about pickup times. Their apps showed different estimated arrivals for the same order, and both were convinced they had been assigned first. "This is what I'm talking about," Camille muttered under her breath. "Systems fighting each other, drivers caught in the crossfire." She started her car, but instead of heading to her next pickup, she drove aimlessly through the city, letting her thoughts churn. Camille had been delivering in Atlanta for nearly 5 years. She'd seen it all. Software updates that broke more than they fixed, algorithm changes that punished drivers for things out of their control, restaurants drowning under the weight of bad logistics. When she'd first started, she loved the flexibility, the illusion of independence. But it hadn't taken long for her to realize the app saw her as expendable. No health insurance, no guaranteed pay, and any complaint from a customer, no matter how petty or false, could mean deactivation. Yet she stayed, not because she loved the work, but because she had bills to pay, and a younger brother, Malik, still in college. Her mother's passing 2 years ago had left them with debt she was still clawing her way out of. She pulled into a parking lot overlooking the city skyline and killed the engine. Her phone lit up again. Another order. This time from QuickBite. She swiped it away. What if she took Rick's offer seriously? What if she became more than just a driver? Camille opened her Notes app and started typing. Problem. Delivery systems ignore real-world traffic, driver fatigue, and restaurant bottlenecks. Solution. Zone-based routing plus live driver feedback loop. Resources needed? Data access, restaurant buy-in, and initial capital for app prototype. She stared at the list, her thumbs hovering over the screen. This wasn't just a driver's gripe session anymore. This was a blueprint. Her phone rang. Malik's name flashed on the screen. "Hey, kid," I answered. "Camille, you sound tired." "Long shift. What's up?" "I just wanted to check on you. And, I emailed you something. A business plan draft for my economics class. Think you could look at it? You're the business mind in the family." She smiled despite herself. "Me? Business mind? You run 4 apps at once and still make rent. That's more than most CEOs. She laughed softly. "I'll check it tonight." "Cool. Love you, sis." "Love you too, Malik." She ended the call and stared at her reflection in the rearview mirror. Maybe Malik was right. Maybe she'd been managing a business all along, herself. The next day, Camille stopped by Lorenzo's before her shift. Rick looked less haggard than usual, and the kitchen was noticeably calmer. "I told a few other managers about what you did," he said as soon as he saw me. "They're begging me to get you in touch." Camille hesitated. "Rick, I don't even know where to start. I'm a delivery driver, not a tech developer." "You know more than they do," That's enough. He handed her a piece of paper with 5 names and phone numbers. These folks are desperate, Camille. So am I. Whatever you did yesterday, it worked. Maybe it's time you made it official. Official? Start a business. Offer your services. Fix what these billion-dollar apps keep screwing up. Camille took the paper, staring at the names. She felt the familiar tightness in her chest, the same fear she'd felt when her mom passed when she had to drop out of college to keep the lights on. Rick, I can't just start a business. That takes money, connections. He leaned in. And guts. You've got plenty of that. That night, in her tiny apartment, Camille sat cross-legged on her bed, surrounded by delivery receipts and old notebooks. She opened Malik's email and skimmed his business plan for a mock logistics company. It was clean, logical, and eerily similar to what she had envisioned earlier. A thought struck her. She opened her laptop and began drafting her own version, this one real. By 3 a.m., her document had grown to 20 pages. She had a name now, Streetwise Logistics. A mission, to make last-mile delivery smarter, faster, and fairer for drivers and businesses alike. And a plan. Start with one restaurant, prove it works, scale from there. Camille leaned back, rubbing her eyes. She had no investors, no coding skills, no team. But she had something none of them did. 5 years of frontline experience. And for the first time in years, she felt something stronger than exhaustion. She felt ready. Camille stood outside Ember's Steakhouse, the icy wind cutting through her jacket as she shifted from foot to foot. It was 7:15 a.m., and the restaurant's staff was already bustling inside. Ember wasn't open for business yet, but its manager, Chloe Whitman, had agreed to meet her before the chaos. Camilla clutched her messenger bag tighter. Inside were 3 printed copies of her fledgling business plan, Streetwise Logistics, drafted in a haze of caffeine and determination. She felt the weight of it like a stone in her hands. When Chloe finally opened the door, her expression was guarded. A tall woman with sharp cheekbones and neatly pressed clothes, Chloe looked every bit the corporate professional Camille imagined she'd have to impress. "Camille Johnson?" Chloe asked, voice brisk. "That's me. You've got 15 minutes. I'm running a kitchen and an army of hungry customers in 2 hours." Camille nodded. "That's all I need." They sat in Chloe's office, a small, overly warm room tucked behind the kitchen. Camille laid one copy of her proposal on the desk and tried to ignore her racing pulse. "I know you're busy, so I'll keep it short," she began. "Your restaurant uses RouteMax, right?"
Yes?
"And it's been challenging. I've seen how it assigns deliveries, scattershot, inefficient, drivers sent from here to the West End and back. It's killing your staff and your ratings." Chloe leaned back, crossing her arms. "And you're offering a system that actually makes sense for Atlanta. Zone-based routing, real-time driver feedback, manual overrides when the algorithm fails. I tested it at Lorenzo's 2 days ago. Their late order rate dropped by 60% in 3 hours." Chloe's eyebrows rose slightly. "You're a delivery driver?" "Yes. A driver who spent years being chewed up and spat out by these systems. I know their weaknesses, and I know how to fix them." Chloe tapped her fingers against the desk, clearly weighing her options. "So you're proposing I let you experiment with my restaurant's operations?" "Not experiment, improve. Let me run your deliveries for a week. No charge. If your numbers don't improve, I walk away. No harm done. And if they do, then we talk about making Streetwise your logistics partner." Chloe studied Camille's face for a long moment, her sharp eyes searching for cracks. Finally, she exhaled. "You've got guts, I'll give you that." She slid the proposal back across the desk. 1 week. Impress me." Camille left Ember with her heart pounding. 1 week. That was all the time she had to prove herself. She spent the next 3 hours at a coffee shop mapping out Ember's delivery zones on her laptop. She cross-referenced traffic patterns, peak order times, and historical delivery data she convinced Chloe to share. By noon, she had a plan so detailed it felt surgical. She texted Rick for moral support. "Got a trial with Ember. 1 week to deliver or I'm toast." His reply came instantly. "Knew you'd get a shot. Crush it." By 5 p.m., Camille was standing in Ember's bustling kitchen, clipboard in hand. Drivers streamed in and out, collecting orders with a glazed expression. She spotted one young driver, Devin, staring at his phone in frustration. Route Max has me going to Decatur, then Buckhead, then back to Edgewood. It's insane. Camille stepped forward. Cancel the Decatur run. Take these 3 Buckhead orders and stay in that zone. I'll reassign Edgewood. Devin blinked at her. Wait, you're allowed to do that? I am now. Trust me. For the next 5 days, Camille worked 14-hour shifts at Ember, managing deliveries with the precision of a military commander. She fielded driver complaints, rerouted orders around accidents, and even jumped in her car to handle overflow during a Friday night rush. Each night, she updated Chloe with the numbers. Day 1, late orders down 30%. Day 3, customer complaints cut in half. Day 5, driver turnover dropped to 0. On the 7th morning, Chloe called her into the office. I don't know what you did, but you turned this place around. Even corporate noticed. Camille's throat tightened. So I'm hiring Streetwise Logistics. As of today, Ember is your first official client. Camille couldn't stop the grin that spread across her face. Thank you. You won't regret this. That night, she sat in her apartment staring at her laptop screen. One restaurant down, hundreds more in the city. It wasn't just about fixing broken systems anymore. It was about building something better. Camille Johnson was done being a cog in the machine. Now, she was designing the whole damn engine.
Camille barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw glowing maps and blinking alerts, delivery routes tangling and straightening in her mind like snakes in a pit. She woke before her alarm, still buzzing from Chloe's words the day before. Ember wasn't just a lucky break. It was proof of concept. By 8 a.m., she was back at her laptop, hunched over with a steaming mug of black coffee. She opened a new spreadsheet and titled it, Potential Clients Phase 1. The list started with restaurants she'd delivered for over the years. She still remembered their managers' names, their kitchens, their pain points. Lorenzo's Italian Bistro, Grill House Barbecue, Moonlight Thai, Riverside Deli, Mama Jean's Soul Kitchen. Each one had complained about the same problems at some point, and Camille had been there to hear them, always listening, always filing away their frustrations. She didn't have investors, she didn't have a tech team, and she didn't have time, but she did have something none of the billion-dollar apps did: the trust of the people at street level. Her phone pinged, a text from Rick. Heard about Ember, told you were a boss. Got a meeting for you, Mama Jean's, 3 p.m., she's all ears. Camille grinned. The spark was spreading. Mama Jean's Soul Kitchen sat on a quiet corner in Old Fourth Ward, its smell of fried chicken and collard greens spilling out into the street. The owner, Jeanette Mama Jean Rogers, was a force of nature. Mid-60s, sharp eyes, warm smile that could melt concrete. You must be Camille, she said, ushering her in. Rick says you make miracles. Just logistics, Camille replied modestly. Child, you make it sound small, but let me tell you, the apps have been choking us. Drivers getting sent across town for one delivery, customers calling us screaming because their food's cold. I'm ready to tear my hair out. Camille nodded. I've seen it before. I can help. Mama Jean leaned forward over her counter. What's your angle, baby girl? You starting a tech company? A union? Neither. I'm starting a revolution. Mama Jean laughed, a deep, hearty sound. Lord, I like you already. Show me what you got. By the time Camille left Mama Jean's 2 hours later, her hand smelled of fried okra, and she had her second client. Camille spent the next week running Ember and Mama Jean's like a general orchestrating a war. Her system wasn't fancy. It was still mostly spreadsheets and manual rerouting, but it worked. Drivers stopped quitting mid-shift. Customers stopped calling in rage. Managers stopped grinding their teeth. By the end of the week, word was out. 2 more restaurants called her, then 3, then 5. Streetwise Logistics was no longer an idea scribbled in a notebook. It was alive. At night, in her cramped apartment, Camille stared at her wall, now plastered with maps and printouts. Malik's voice came through her earbuds as they FaceTimed. Camille, you realize you're basically building Uber, right? Except, one that actually gives a damn? I'm building something better. Something that won't treat drivers like disposable batteries. Guess I picked the right sister to brag about in class. But as Camille's client list grew, so did her challenges. She was still doing most of the work herself, scheduling, rerouting, fielding angry calls when drivers ran late or customers got picky. Her phone buzzed so much it felt like a second heartbeat. And then there were the apps. Grubdash, ChowNow, QuickBite started noticing her interference. One morning, Camille received a tersely worded email. We have reason to believe unauthorized third parties are altering delivery routes and interfering with app functionality. Cease and desist immediately. She stared at the screen, her jaw tightening. They're scared, she whispered. At Ember, Chloe handed her a printout of Yelp reviews. Since you came on board, we've had a 40% bump in 5-star ratings. But Camille, what happens if those apps blacklist us? They won't, Camille said confidently. They need you more than you need them. But even if they try, I'm working on something bigger. Bigger? I'm designing a prototype for Streetwise's own driver network. No middlemen, no algorithms. Just fair pay and smarter routes. Chloe's eyes widened. You're not playing small, are you? I can't afford to. At 2 a.m. that night, Camille sat alone at her laptop. Her screen glowed with code she barely understood. Snippets borrowed from open-source route planners, cobbled together with her own logic. She wasn't a coder, she wasn't a CEO, but for the first time in years, she felt like both. And she wasn't about to stop.
The first sign of trouble came in the form of a driver named Andre. He burst into Mama Jean's kitchen, mid-afternoon, his phone clutched in his hand like a live grenade. "Camille, that just deactivated my account," he shouted. "I can't log in. All it says is violation of terms of service." Camille's stomach nodded. She had been expecting this, just not so soon. "Sit down," she said calmly. "We'll fix it." Andre was pacing. "Fix it? They're cutting me off from my income. What am I supposed to do?" "You're not alone," she said. "I promise you that." But in her mind, she heard the echo of the email from QuickBite. Cease and desist. They weren't playing around. That night, Camille pulled a chair up to her tiny kitchen table and opened her laptop. A Google alert popped up. Delivery disruption, local restaurants bypass apps with rogue logistics. The article wasn't about her by name, but the description was unmistakable. A former driver turned consultant helping restaurants manage their own delivery systems. Camille scrolled through the comments, her jaw tightening. Good luck fighting billion-dollar companies. She'll get crushed, watch. About time someone stood up for drivers. Hope she makes it. She exhaled. The world was watching now. Malik called her later, his voice tight with concern. "Camille, I saw the article. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she said, though her stomach felt like a lead weight. "They're gonna come after you. They already have, but I'm not backing down." There was a long silence. Then Malik said quietly, "Mom would be proud of you, you know." Camille smiled, blinking back the sting in her eyes. "Thanks, kid." The next day, Chloe at Ember pulled her aside. 2 drivers got deactivated overnight. Corporate called and hinted we're violating partnership agreements. "Camille, how far are you planning to take this?" "All the way," Camille said. Chloe sighed. "Then you're going to need more than spreadsheets and hustle. You need lawyers, investors, a platform that can't be swatted down like a fly." "I know." "Do you? Because right now they can kill this with a software update." Camille didn't argue. Chloe was right. That night she drafted a new plan. It started with a name, Streetwise Direct. The idea was simple but radical. Drivers would sign up directly with Streetwise, not through the apps. Restaurants would contract deliveries without middlemen, and customers would pay a small premium for faster service and drivers who were actually treated like humans. The next morning, she pitched it to her core team, Chloe, Mama Jean, Rick, and Andre. "You want us to break away completely?" Rick said, stunned. "It's the only way to survive. They're bleeding us dry." Mama Jean leaned forward, her eyes flashing. "I'm in. I'm too old to bow down to people who never worked a kitchen shift in their lives." Andre nodded. "I've got nothing left to lose. I'm in too." Chloe rubbed her temples. "You realize this means war, right? They'll sue. They'll smear you in the press. They'll blacklist us all." Camille's voice was steady. "Let them try." 2 weeks later, Streetwise Direct's pilot launched with 5 restaurants and 15 drivers. Camille was there every step of the way, routing orders, fielding panic calls, even delivering during a lunch rush when a driver's car broke down. The first week went surprisingly well. On-time delivery rate, 92%. Customer satisfaction, 4.8 stars. Driver earnings, up 30% compared to GrubDash. The second week, not so much. On Tuesday, Camille woke to find her face plastered across food industry blocks. Disruptor or danger, the woman defined delivery jibes. By Wednesday, 3 restaurants had received threatening letters from QuickBite and GrubDash, warning of breach of exclusivity. By Friday, 1 restaurant, Riverside Deli, pulled out. The owner left a voicemail on Camille's phone. "I'm sorry. They threatened to pull our listings. We can't afford that." Camille sat in her car staring at her dashboard. For the first time in weeks, doubt crept in. Was she really ready for this fight? But that night, she got a call from Malik. "Camille, check Twitter right now." She opened her phone and saw the hashtag trending. Hashtag Streetwise Revolution. Hundreds of posts from drivers, customers, even restaurant workers, sharing stories of bad app experiences and praising Streetwise for trying something new. One tweet stood out. "Finally someone who gets it. Camille Johnson, keep fighting. We're with you." Camille stared at the screen for a long moment. Then she closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "I'm not done. Not even close."
Camille didn't hear the pounding on her apartment door until the 3rd round. She'd been so buried in her laptop, line after line of route optimization code, that the real world felt like a dream. When she finally opened the door, Rick stood there, hair disheveled, phone clutched in his hand. "You need to see this," he said without preamble. He shoved the phone toward her. On the screen was a press release from QuickBite. "Protecting our partners. QuickBite launches new delivery protocols." Camille's eyes scanned the text, her stomach tightening. Effective immediately, restaurants engaging in unauthorized third-party delivery services will be subject to delisting. Drivers found participating in such operations will have accounts permanently deactivated. "They're trying to kill us," Rick said grimly. Camille set her jaw. Then they're scared. Scared or not, they've got the lawyers, the lobbyists, and enough cash to crush 100 Streetwises. Not if we move faster. At Mama Jean's that afternoon, Camille gathered her core team around a table in the back room. Chloe, Andre, Rick, and Mama Jean herself. "They're escalating," Camille began. "We need to get ahead of this before they choke us out." Chloe tapped a finger against her coffee cup. "We're running on duct tape and hustle. If QuickBite and GrubDash blacklist every restaurant in town, we're dead in the water." Andre, his jaw tight, spoke up. "I've been talking to other drivers. They're furious. Some are ready to walk out. A citywide strike." Camille shook her head. "Strikes only work if the public notices. The apps will spin it as lazy drivers holding customers hostage." Mama Jean leaned in. "What's your play, baby girl?" "We scale." Camille's eyes burned with quiet fire. "Fast. We take every restaurant they threaten and give them a lifeline. And we take care of our drivers better than the apps ever did. If we grow fast enough, they can't stop us without bleeding themselves dry." "Scale with what money?" Chloe asked bluntly. "I'll find it." That night, Camille met Malik at a tiny diner on the edge of town. He was wearing his Georgia Tech hoodie and looked every bit the baby brother she used to tutor in algebra. "You need capital," he said, stirring his coffee, "and you need it now. Have you pitched to any investors?" "I don't have time for boardrooms and elevator pitches. Besides, no VC is going to bet on a black woman running a delivery startup out of her kitchen." "Then you find someone who will." Malik's eyes hardened. "You've already built something incredible. You're not asking for a handout, you're offering a revolution." Camille's lips twitched in a wry smile. "You sound like Mom." "Good. She'd tell you the same thing." 3 days later, Camille found herself standing in a glass-walled conference room 20 floors up in downtown Atlanta. Across the table sat Evelyn Cross, a venture capitalist with a reputation for backing underdogs. The woman's sharp gray eyes never left Camille's face as she spoke. "Streetwise Direct," she said slowly. "Bold. Risky. The big players will come after you with everything they've got." "They already are," Camille replied evenly. "And yet we're still growing. Drivers are joining, restaurants are signing, customers are choosing us." Evelyn leaned back in her chair. tapping a manicured finger against her chin. "And what exactly do you need from me?" $2 million to build a proper platform, hire engineers, lease a small fleet of vehicles, expand to 5 cities within a year. Evelyn's lips curved into a faint smile. "Ambitious. It has to be," Camille said. "If we don't scale, we die. But if we do, we change everything." There was a long silence. Evelyn's gaze was like a scalpel, dissecting every inch of Camille's resolve. At last she said, "You've got guts, Ms. Johnson. I like that. I'll wire the first tranche by Monday." Camille walked out of that building feeling 10 feet tall. She called Rick before even reaching the sidewalk. "We're funded!" "No shit," Rick whooped so loud she had to hold the phone away from her ear. "Camille, you're a damn legend." "Not yet, but give me 6 months." Within weeks, the transformation was underway. Streetwise Direct's new app rolled out in beta, designed by a small but fiercely dedicated team of engineers Camille handpicked. Drivers praised its simplicity and fairness. No surprise reroutes, no unpaid wait times. Restaurants started advertising Streetwise delivery with pride, drawing in customers who were fed up with the big app's hidden fees. And Camille? She barely slept. Her days were a blur of meetings, calls, and crisis management. But for the first time, she wasn't just surviving. She was building. QuickBite wasn't sitting still. One night, Camille received an anonymous email. "Watch your back. They're coming for you. HQ has a task force, codename Blackout." She forwarded it to Rick with a single line. "Buckle up." At Streetwise HQ, now a cramped but energetic co-working space, Camille addressed her growing team. "They'll try to bury us in lawsuits. They'll spread lies, but we're not backing down. Because this isn't about food delivery anymore." She looked around the room at faces of every color, every background. Former drivers, restaurant workers, engineers who believed in her cause. This is about justice for drivers, for restaurants, for customers. And they can't stop a revolution. The room erupted in cheers. Camille smiled, but inside, she knew the real war was only just beginning.
Camille didn't need the anonymous email to tell her QuickBite was plotting. She could feel it in the air, an electric hum of resistance. Every time Streetwise Direct made a breakthrough, the big apps countered with a press release, a new feature, or a lawsuit. But nothing prepared her for the morning her phone exploded with alerts. "Camille," Chloe's voice was sharp on the other end of the line. "We're trending, and not in a good way." Camille pulled up Twitter. #StreetwiseScam, #DriversBeware, #FakeDeliveries. Her stomach dropped. One viral thread accused Streetwise of underpaying drivers, falsifying deliveries, and endangering customers. The thread's author claimed to be a former Streetwise driver, but Camille didn't recognize the name. "It's a hit job," Chloe said. "The screenshots are doctored. I checked our records. They're trying to kill our credibility. They're doing a damn good job. Restaurants are calling, customers are canceling orders. What's the play?" Camille rubbed her temples. "We don't panic. We counterattack." At Streetwise HQ, the team gathered in the break room. Camille stood at the front, the hum of tension thick. "This isn't an accident. This is Project Blackout, QuickBite's attempt to erase us before we can grow too big to crush." Rick raised a hand. "But the news sites are picking it up, even the ones that praised us last month." "Money talks," Camille said. "They're paying for coverage, for bots to amplify the lies." Andre slammed a fist into his palm. "So what do we do? Sue him back?" Camille shook her head. "Not yet. First, we fight this in the open. Transparency is our weapon." The next day, Camille went live on Instagram. The camera framed her in the Streetwise hoodie, her eyes burning with quiet intensity. Some of you may have seen accusations about Streetwise. Let me be clear. They're lies, manufactured by companies terrified of losing their grip on this industry. She held up her phone, scrolling through real-time driver earnings and customer satisfaction metrics. "This is the truth. Our drivers earn 30% more than the national average. Our deliveries are 94% on time, and we treat our people like human beings, not numbers on a screen." The comments poured in. "Preach! I left QuickBuy because of this. Streetwise is the future. Don't let them win, Camille. Within hours, the hashtags flipped. Hashtag we stand with Streetwise. Hashtag Camille for the people. But QuickBite wasn't finished. That afternoon, Camille got a call from Mama Jean. "Baby, I hate to say this, but I just had a health inspector in my kitchen, said they got an anonymous tip we're violating codes. You know that's nonsense." Camille's fists clenched. "They're playing dirty." "Dirtier than I thought possible," Mama Jean said. "But don't you dare back down. You're onto something real." Camille called Chloe and Andre into her office. "They're weaponizing the system against us. Health inspections, IRS audits, driver deactivations. This isn't just business, it's war." Andre crossed his arms. "So let's hit back harder. Full driver walkout, media blitz, make 'em sweat." Chloe frowned. "Or we could go bigger. I know a few influencers, people with millions of followers, who hate QuickBite. One of them just posted about a driver getting fired for refusing a dangerous route. We get them on board, we control the narrative." Camille's eyes lit up. "Do it. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about every driver, every restaurant, every customer sick of being exploited." By week's end, Streetwise's social media was a battleground, but Camille was winning. A video of her confronting a QuickBite executive outside a public hearing went viral. "You've made billions off the backs of drivers in mom-and-pop restaurants, and now you're scared of a little competition? If you can't innovate without crushing people, maybe you shouldn't be in business." The crowd erupted in cheers. The clip was shared 2.4 million times in 48 hours. That night, alone in her apartment, Camille finally allowed herself a moment to breathe. The war was far from over, but for the first time, she felt like she had the upper hand. Her phone buzzed. A text from Evelyn Cross. "Nice work, Johnson. Ready to talk Series B funding?" Camille smiled. For a delivery driver who once lived paycheck to paycheck, she was now a CEO steering a revolution. And nothing, no smear campaign, no billionaire empire, was going to stop her.
The first cracks in QuickBite's armor appeared during a rainy Thursday afternoon. Camille was reviewing driver data at Streetwise HQ when Rick burst into her office. "You're going to want to see this," he said breathlessly, slamming a tablet down in front of her. A live stream from a congressional hearing filled the screen. QuickBite's CEO, a sharp-suited man named Thomas Granger, sat under blistering questioning. "Mr. Granger," one congresswoman was saying, "how do you justify contractors working 14-hour days without health care, sick leave, or minimum wage protections?" Granger's smugness wavered. "We provide flexibility and no protections. Isn't it true that you've deactivated drivers for speaking out on social media?" Camille watched with a mix of shock and grim satisfaction. "Streetwise is in the briefings," Rick said. "Your name's come up 3 times. "My name?" "Camille Johnson is proving there's a better way." That's a direct quote from the Labor Committee chair. Camille's fingers drummed the desk. "This changes everything." But the celebration was short-lived. That evening, Chloe stormed into Camille's office, phone in hand. "They're undercutting us." On her screen, QuickBite's app was advertising a new driver profit-sharing program and slashing delivery fees by 50%. "They're bleeding cash to keep customers locked in," Chloe said. "We can't match that without burning through our funding." Camille's mind raced. "We don't need to match it. We need to change the game." 2 days later, Camille unveiled Streetwise's next move: community hubs. Small, neighborhood-based distribution centers, staffed by drivers and restaurant workers. Orders would be aggregated and dispatched faster, with less strain on individual drivers. The pilot launched in Atlanta's West End, and the results were immediate. 97% on-time delivery, 20% reduction in driver waiting times, customers reporting fresher food and friendlier service. But QuickBite wasn't done. Camille received another anonymous tip late at night. "They're planning to buy out your biggest partner restaurants. Expect an announcement Monday." Camille stared at the message, her stomach turning. If QuickBite took over Mama Jean's and the others, Streetwise would lose its backbone. She picked up the phone and called Evelyn Cross. "I need a war chest," Camille said. "How much?" Evelyn asked. 10 million. Whistle. You're thinking acquisition. I'm thinking survival. On Monday morning, Camille walked into Mama Jean's with a folder of contracts under her arm. Jean, I'm here to make you an offer. I thought we were partners already. We are. But if Quick Bite's trying to buy you, I need to make sure they can't. Camille laid out the plan. Streetwise would purchase a controlling stake in the restaurants most vital to its network, guaranteeing their independence and infusing them with capital to expand. Jean chuckled. So you're the boss now? No, Camille said softly. We're building something bigger than bosses. Jean's eyes softened. Then you've got yourself a deal, baby girl. By week's end, Streetwise owned partial stakes in 12 key restaurants. Quick Bite's acquisition bid collapsed in the press, the headlines practically singing Camille's name. David beats Goliath. Streetwise outmaneuvers delivery giant. Camille Johnson, the woman Silicon Valley can't ignore. But with success came scrutiny. A week later, Camille sat in a TV studio across from a sharp-tongued anchor. Miss Johnson, critics say you're just creating another monopoly, replacing one giant with another. Camille didn't flinch. Streetwise isn't about monopolies. It's about equity. Every driver and restaurant in our network has a stake. We're proving you can build a logistics empire without crushing the little guy. Do you really think you can outlast companies worth billions? Camille's gaze was steady. I don't have to outlast them. I just have to out-innovate them. That night, she stared at the skyline from her apartment window. The fight had changed her, hardened her. She thought of the long hours on the road, of cold meals eaten in her car, of Malik's encouragement, of Mama Jean's faith. This wasn't just a company anymore. It was a movement. And Camille Johnson wasn't going to stop until every driver, every restaurant, and every customer knew they deserved better.
Camille had learned early that revolutions weren't clean. They didn't follow a script or leave people untouched. The morning she woke to dozens of threatening voicemails, she knew the war with Quick Bite had entered a new phase. You think you can destroy jobs, lady? I'll make sure you regret this. Stay in your lane, Camille. Little girls don't belong at this table. You're ruining lives. Watch your back. She stared at her phone for a long moment before powering it down. At HQ, the team was on edge. Andre waved a printout at her. They're spreading rumors now, saying we're using sweatshop drivers overseas to fill orders. That's ridiculous, Camille said, though her jaw tightened. They don't care if it's true, Chloe replied. They just need people to doubt. Camille walked to the whiteboard and grabbed a marker. Then we take this head on. We invite journalists into our hubs, show them everything. Driver pay, restaurant contracts, the works. Rick crossed his arms. Transparency's risky. They'll twist whatever they want. Maybe, but hiding looks worse. If we let fear guide us, they win. 2 days later, Streetwise held its first open house for the media. Reporters roamed the West End hub, interviewing drivers and restaurant owners. Mama Jean spoke passionately to a cluster of cameras. Camille is giving us a fighting chance. Before her, we were drowning in fees. Now we're thriving. One reporter turned to Camille. Quick Bite claims you're destabilizing the industry, that small businesses can't survive under your model. Camille met her gaze squarely. They said that about unions, about civil rights, about every change that threatened their power. But we're proving them wrong every day. But even as Streetwise gained supporters, cracks began to show. Late one night, Camille found Chloe still at her desk, eyes red. You okay? Camille asked softly. She shook her head. We're burning cash too fast. The community hubs are amazing, but they're bleeding us. If we don't find a new revenue stream soon. Camille sank into the chair across from her. I knew this wouldn't be easy, but I didn't expect to feel this alone. You're not alone, Chloe said gently, but you can't save the world by yourself either. You've got to let us carry some of this. Camille nodded, but the weight in her chest didn't lift. The next day, Evelyn Cross called. I've been watching your moves. You're brilliant, Camille, but brilliance isn't enough. You need allies. I don't want to compromise what Streetwise stands for. Compromise isn't weakness, it's survival, she replied. You should meet Samuel Torres. He runs a regional logistics firm. He hates QuickBite even more than you do. Together, you could go national. Camille met Samuel at a high-rise downtown. He was younger than she expected, with sharp eyes and a quicker smile. I admire what you've built, but you're still thinking small. I can get you into 15 states in a year. At what cost? 15% equity, and I want a seat on your board. Camille hesitated. Giving up that much control felt dangerous, but so did stagnation. She said, "Let me think." Meanwhile, the attacks kept coming. A QuickBite-aligned PAC launched a campaign painting Camille as an irresponsible radical. Billboards went up. "Don't let Streetwise ruin your dinner. Jobs lost, families hurt, Camille Johnson's way." The smear campaign stung, but the grassroots support was growing stronger too. Drivers filmed TikToks, showing their paychecks under Streetwise versus QuickBite. Customers posted screenshots comparing fees. And everywhere Camille went, people recognized her. "Keep fighting," a delivery driver told her outside a grocery store. "You're giving us hope." That night, Camille stood alone in the warehouse, staring at rows of branded delivery bags. She remembered her first night as a driver. Her hands numb from cold, her car's heater broken, the desperation in her chest as she scrambled for enough to cover rent. Now, she wasn't just driving. She was leading. And though her shoulders ached with the weight of it, she knew she couldn't stop. For herself, for her drivers, for every little mom-and-pop kitchen fighting to stay alive. The next morning, she called Evelyn. "Set up the meeting with Torres. If we're going national, I need all the help I can get." But as Camille prepared for expansion, far across town, Thomas Granger sat in his office, a glass of scotch in hand. "Activate the contingency plan," he told his OOC. "What about the PR fallout?" Granger smirked. "By the time she realizes what's happening, it'll be too late." Camille's phone buzzed non-stop as she strode into the office that morning. Notifications, missed calls, emails piling up faster than she could swipe them away. "Camille," Andre called, waving her over. "You need to see this." On the large monitor in the conference room, a map of their active delivery zones blinked red in 3 cities. "What's happening?" she asked. "They're calling it Operation Floodgate," Chloe said, voice tight. "QuickBite just launched unlimited free delivery in all our markets. They're pulling in every driver with massive bonuses and offering restaurants 0 commission for 90 days. They're trying to starve us out," Camille whispered. Rick chimed in. "It's working. Orders dropped 40% overnight. Drivers are jumping ship for the payouts." Camille's hands curled into fists. They can't sustain those losses forever. "No," Chloe said softly, "but can we?" Camille paced her office for hours, running numbers in her head. They had enough cash runway for 3 months at their current burn rate. If QuickBite kept this up, Streetwise wouldn't survive that long. Evelyn Cross's voice echoed in her mind. "Compromise isn't weakness, it's survival." Camille slammed her laptop shut and grabbed her coat. An hour later, she was sitting across from Samuel Torres in his glass-walled office. "You came," he said with a small smile. "I came, but I'm not here to hand over Streetwise. I'm here to make a deal on my terms." Torres raised an eyebrow. "Go on." "We form a joint venture. Your logistics muscle, my delivery model. Streetwise keeps its autonomy, but we expand together. No board seats, no equity handover." Torres leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. "You drive a hard bargain, Johnson, but I like hard bargains." 2 weeks later, Streetwise began operating out of Torres logistics warehouses in 5 new states. Deliveries were faster, drivers earned more, customers noticed. QuickBite's floodgate strategy started to crack. Investors grumbled. Stock prices wavered. Camille stood before her team at HQ, her voice steady. "We're still standing. They threw everything at us, but we adapted, and now we grow." The room erupted in applause. But even as Streetwise surged, Camille couldn't shake a sense of unease. Late one night, she was reviewing reports when Chloe appeared in her doorway. "Camille, we have a problem." Chloe handed over a tablet. A viral video was playing, a Streetwise driver caught mishandling a customer's order, shouting at staff in a restaurant, then tossing food on the sidewalk. Camille's stomach turned. "This isn't who we are," she said. I know, but people are running with it. They're saying we're growing too fast, that we can't control our drivers. Camille closed her eyes. Damage control. Launch a driver retraining program immediately. Emphasize community values. And the press? I'll handle them. The next morning, Camille faced cameras at a press conference. Streetwise has zero tolerance for misconduct. We're implementing new measures to support and train our drivers. Our goal has always been dignity, for drivers, restaurants, and customers alike. Questions flew from reporters. Are you scaling too fast? Can you maintain quality? Is this the beginning of your downfall? Camille's voice didn't waver. Revolutions aren't perfect, but we're learning, we're adapting, and we're not backing down. Meanwhile, in a sleek Manhattan office, Thomas Granger watched the press conference with narrowed eyes. "She's tougher than I thought," he muttered. His COO shifted uncomfortably. "Do we escalate?" Granger's lips curved into a cold smile. "Not yet, but tell legal to prepare. It's time we remind her who built this industry." That night, Camille returned to her apartment, exhausted but unbowed. Her phone buzzed, a message from Mama Jean. "Proud of you, baby. Keep your chin up. They can't kill what's real." She stared out at the city lights. She was in too deep to turn back. The battle wasn't over, but neither was she.
Camille arrived at the National Food Industry Conference to a sea of suited executives and flashing cameras. This was hostile territory. The crowd of CEOs, franchise owners, and lobbyists had long treated Streetwise as a disruptive nuisance. But now she had an invitation and a seat on the main panel. "Are you ready for this?" Chloe asked as they stood backstage. Camille adjusted her white blazer, her expression calm, but her pulse quickening. "I've been ready since the first night I delivered a $6 order and drove home with $1.50 in my pocket." The moderator called her name. Camille stepped onto the stage, the lights hot and blinding. She took her seat beside Thomas Granger. His smile was polite but predatory. "Welcome to the big leagues, Ms. Johnson." "I've been in the big leagues. You just didn't notice." The panel began. "Ms. Johnson, Streetwise has grown rapidly, but critics say your model isn't sustainable. How do you respond?" the moderator asked. She leaned into the microphone. "Our model works because it values people. Drivers are paid fairly, restaurants aren't gouged by commissions, customers get better service. This isn't radical, it's common sense." Granger smirked. "Common sense doesn't pay shareholders." Camille met his gaze. "Maybe the problem is thinking shareholders should come before workers and communities." A ripple ran through the audience. After the panel, Camille was swarmed by reporters. Questions flew. Can Streetwise scale without compromising quality? Do you see yourself as a threat to companies like QuickBite? Are you positioning yourself for an IPO? She answered calmly, deflecting when needed, but inside she felt the pressure mounting. Every word was a chess move now. That evening, Camille attended a private dinner with influential restaurateurs. Some welcomed her warmly, others eyed her warily. An older man, owner of a 300-location chain, leaned in. "You're idealistic, Camille, but idealism doesn't last in this business." Camille smiled slightly. "Neither does exploitation. People are waking up." "Perhaps, but can you afford to wait for them to wake up before the money runs out?" The words lingered as she left the dinner, the weight of expectation settling over her shoulders. Back at her hotel, Camille found Chloe waiting with bad news. Granger's lawyers filed suit today, claiming Streetwise is poaching drivers with proprietary data. Camille sank onto the edge of the bed. Do they have a case? Chloe shook her head. It's baseless, but it will cost millions and slow us down. Camille exhaled slowly. This is their strategy. Tie us up in court while they bleed us in the market. The next morning, Camille convened her leadership team. They're trying to outspend and outlast us. We need another lever. Andre spoke up. What about vertical integration? Own more of the supply chain. Chloe nodded. Or a subscription model for customers, guaranteed free delivery for a flat monthly fee. Camille considered both ideas. We'll do both. Subscription rolls out in 30 days. Andre starts scouting suppliers. Her team looked at her, eyes shining with determination. But as Camille drove to the airport later that week, she received an encrypted text. They're coming for your investors next. Evelyn Cross is getting pressured to pull out. Camille tightened her grip on the wheel.
This wasn't just a fight for Streetwise anymore. It was a fight for the future of work itself. And she wasn't about to lose. Camille's office smelled faintly of burnt coffee and paper. She hadn't left the building in 48 hours. On the wall, a digital map tracked Streetwise's activity across states. Red zones blinked where QuickBite's price war and legal assaults were biting hardest. Subscription signups are solid, Chloe reported, standing by the whiteboard. We're averaging 10,000 a day. It's not enough, Andre said grimly. Legal fees are burning a hole in our cash. At this rate, we have 6 months before we hit the wall. Camille rubbed her temples. Then we pivot faster. What about the vertical integration plan? Vendors are hesitant. Too much heat from QuickBite. They don't want to get caught in the crossfire. Camille's hands curled into fists. They're scared of Granger, she muttered. We need to show him he's not invincible. Later that night, she met Evelyn Cross at a discreet rooftop bar. Evelyn looked tired, her flawless makeup barely hiding the strain. They came after me too, Camille, she said softly. Threats to pull contracts, audits, whispers about regulatory investigations. Are you pulling out? Camille asked bluntly. Evelyn's sharp gaze softened. Do I look like the type to scare easily? No. But you need more than stubborn investors. You need a coup. What kind of coup? Strike at the heart. Granger's biggest leverage isn't his market share, it's his chokehold on logistics. Break that and you cripple him. Camille leaned back, the idea crystallizing in her mind. We'd have to launch our own distribution network, nationwide. It'll take guts, money, and partners willing to burn bridges. Camille smiled tightly. Good thing I specialize in burning bridges. 2 weeks later, Camille stood in an empty warehouse outside Chicago, the first node of Streetwise's future logistics arm. This is it, Andre said, his voice a mix of awe and fear. If we pull this off, we don't just compete with QuickBite, we replace them. Or we go down in flames, Chloe added. Camille walked slowly through the cavernous space, her heels echoing. We won't go down, because we're building something they can't destroy. Meanwhile, QuickBite was hitting back harder. A smear campaign branded Streetwise as the Uber of chaos. Viral videos, many clearly staged, showed Streetwise drivers making mistakes or clashing with restaurant staff. Camille watched one clip silently. A young driver dropping a tray of coffee, followed by an angry customer ranting about amateurs. Chloe stormed into the room. It's coordinated. Bots are amplifying these videos. They're trying to poison public opinion. Then we fight fire with fire, Camille said. Highlight the good, real stories from real people. Streetwise's social media exploded with videos of drivers helping elderly customers, rescuing pets, delivering food during floods. Mama Jean posted a heartfelt message. Camille Johnson gave us our dignity back. Don't let them take her down. Support surged, but so did the backlash. Camille's personal life became fodder for tabloids. Old photos, family drama, even a fabricated affair with Therese splashed across gossip sites. One evening, Camille's mother called. Baby, you okay? Her mother asked. I'm fine, Mama, Camille lied. You've been fighting your whole life. Don't let these people break you. They won't, Camille's voice cracked. But sometimes I wonder if I'm enough. Her mother's voice was firm. You're more than enough. You're the daughter of a woman who cleaned floors so you could dream. Now you're cleaning house in an industry that never saw you coming. Don't stop. Weeks later, Streetwise's first fully owned distribution hub went live. Delivery sped up, costs dropped, drivers saw bigger paychecks. At a press conference, Camille declared, "We're not just a delivery company anymore. We're an ecosystem, built by and for the people." Thomas Granger watched the broadcast from his office, his expression dark. "She's too dangerous now," he told a COO. "Activate Project Blackout." "Sir, that's—" "Do it." It's time she learned what real power looks like. The next morning, Camille woke to find Streetwise's app offline in 5 major cities. Servers crashed, drivers couldn't log in, restaurants lost orders. Chloe burst into her office panicked. "This isn't a glitch. Someone's sabotaging us." Camille stared at her dark phone screen, her heart pounding. They're trying to kill us. But deep inside,
A flicker of defiance burned. They're about to find out what happens when you corner a delivery driver.
The office was chaos. Screens flashed red with error messages. Phones rang incessantly. Drivers were flooding support lines, furious that the Streetwise app had gone dark in New York, Chicago, Atlanta, Miami, and Los Angeles, all within minutes of each other. Camille stood at the center of it all, her face unreadable. "Status," she demanded. "Someone's hit our servers with a coordinated DDoS attack," Chloe said, her voice taut. "We're being flooded with fake traffic. The system's drowning." Andre added grimly, "It's not just the app. Our payment processors are rejecting transactions. Even our cloud storage is getting throttled." "QuickBite?" she asked. "Can't prove it yet, but the timing, the scale, no one else could pull this off." Camille closed her eyes for a moment, blocking out the noise. She saw her drivers, single moms, students, retirees, sitting idle, unable to earn. She saw restaurant owners staring at empty screens, customers wondering where their food was. Then she opened her eyes. "Call in every engineer. We're going to war." For the next 48 hours, Streetwise HQ became a war room. Coders slept in shifts on the floor, their screens alive with lines of code and firewall alerts. Camille made endless copy runs herself, refusing to leave their side. "Camille, you need sleep," Chloe urged. "I'll sleep when this is over." Andre burst in. "We found a vulnerability they're exploiting. It's in our legacy API. We can patch it, but we'll have to take the whole system down for at least 6 hours to rebuild." "Do it," Camille said, without hesitation. While the engineers worked, Camille recorded a video message for drivers and customers. "We're under attack by forces who want to silence us, but I promise you, we will be back, stronger, faster, and more determined than ever. This isn't the end, it's a new beginning." The video went viral within hours. #StandWithStreetwise trended worldwide. Mama Jean posted, "They tried to shut my baby down, but Camille Johnson don't scare easy. Watch her rise." In Manhattan, Thomas Granger watched the response with annoyance. "She's spinning it into a rallying cry," his COO said. "Then we hit harder," Granger snapped. "Pull our strings with regulators. Delay her licensing renewals. Block her from leasing new hubs. Make her choke on bureaucracy." "Yes, sir." 3 days later, Streetwise came back online. Orders poured in. Drivers returned in droves, many refusing offers from QuickBite even at higher rates. Camille stood in the command center as applause broke out. Engineers hugged, tears of exhaustion and triumph mixing freely. "We're still here," Andre said, grinning. "Damn right we are," Camille replied. But even as they celebrated, new challenges arose. A letter from the Department of Transportation arrived. A routine audit was to begin next week. Chloe slammed the envelope down on Camille's desk. "They're coming after our operating licenses. This isn't random. It's Granger's fingerprints all over it." Camille read the letter silently, then looked up. "Fine, let them audit. We'll be as clean as a surgeon's scalpel. Meanwhile, we press the offensive." The next day, Camille announced Streetwise's most audacious move yet, a partnership with local governments to deliver food to underserved areas as part of a public-private initiative. "Food deserts aren't an accident. They're a failure of imagination," Camille told reporters. "We're here to fix that." The announcement blindsided QuickBite, winning Streetwise public praise and new municipal contracts. In private, Camille confided in Chloe. "This isn't just business anymore. This is survival, for our people, our values, and for me." "You're fighting like hell," Chloe said softly, "but don't lose yourself in the fight." Camille gave a tight smile. "It's too late. This fight is who I am now." Late that night, Camille walked alone through a Streetwise distribution hub. She watched pallets of groceries being loaded into vans, drivers laughing and chatting in the cool night air. She thought of her mother scrubbing floors, of her own first night driving deliveries. Then her phone buzzed. An anonymous message. "Next move won't be digital. Watch your back." Camille stared at the screen, her jaw tightening. She whispered to herself, "Bring it."
Camille felt the tension in her body before she even opened her eyes. Her phone was vibrating violently on the nightstand. Chloe's voice was sharp when she answered. "Camille, there's been an incident at the Detroit hub. Fire. 2 vans destroyed. No injuries, thank God, but it's bad." Camille swung her legs out of bed. "Accident?" "They're investigating, but the fire marshal says it looks like arson." Camille's jaw tightened. Granger. When she arrived at the Detroit hub, the smell of smoke still hung in the air. Blackened metal skeletons of delivery vans stood as grim monuments. Employees milled about nervously. One young driver approached her. "Miss Johnson, are we safe?" Camille looked him in the eye. "Yes, because we don't scare easy." She turned to the group. "Listen up. Whoever did this wants us afraid, wants us to back down. But here's the thing. Streetwise doesn't back down. We rebuild, we reload, and we keep moving forward, together." Applause broke out, hesitant at first, then growing louder. Back in Atlanta, Camille's legal team had news. The DOT audit flagged irregularities in 2 states. Minor, but enough to suspend operations if they push it. Andre slammed his fist on the table. "This is harassment, plain and simple." Camille held up a hand. "Then we make it plain and simple for them. Fix every irregularity yesterday. I don't care what it costs." Chloe added, "Media's starting to turn too. Granger's people are feeding them stories about Streetwise cutting corners and endangering customers." "Then we get ahead of it, launch a transparency campaign, weekly reports, safety audits, highlight the real stories, our people, our customers, our impact." Days later, Camille appeared on Good Morning America. The host leaned in. "Camille, critics say Streetwise is growing too fast, too recklessly. How do you respond?" Camille didn't flinch. "We're growing fast because the world needs us, and we're growing responsibly because we know what's at stake. I started as a delivery driver. I know what it means to rely on this job to feed your kids. That's why we'll get this right." Meanwhile, Granger was not sitting idle. In a private meeting with key senators, he warned of systemic risks posed by companies like Streetwise. He said, "If she gains market dominance, she'll destroy the fragile balance of our industry." A senator raised an eyebrow. "Or maybe she's just doing what you never thought to do, treating workers like humans." Granger's smile was tight. "We'll see which one history remembers." At Streetwise HQ, Camille's team celebrated their 50th millionth delivery. But the mood was cut short when Chloe burst into the room. "Camille, you need to see this." A video was trending. A masked figure spray painting "Streetwise equals sellouts" on a delivery van. The footage ended with the van exploding in flames. Camille's stomach churned. "Activists?" "No," Camille said quietly. "This is Granger trying to fracture us from the inside, make drivers think we've betrayed them." Camille called an emergency town hall with thousands of drivers tuning in via live stream. She stood in the center of a warehouse. No teleprompter, no notes. "They want us divided? Don't let them win. You built this company. You made it strong. You made it unstoppable. And if you stand with me now, no one, not QuickBite, not Granger, not anyone, can take that away." The live stream chat flooded with messages. "We got you, Camille. Street lies strong. This is our company too." But late that night, as Camille sat alone in her office, the cracks began to show. She stared at a framed photo of her first delivery route, her younger self smiling with exhaustion but full of hope. Chloe entered quietly, setting down a cup of tea. "Camille, you can't pour from an empty cup. You need rest." "I can't stop, Chloe. If I do, they'll destroy everything." Maybe you're just one person trying to carry the weight of the world." Camille's voice was barely a whisper. "Maybe I am." Then her phone buzzed with another anonymous message. "They're not just coming for your company now. They're coming for you." Camille stared at the words, her reflection in the dark screen staring back like a warning.
The knock on Camille's door came at 2 a.m. She opened it to find Andre standing there, his face pale. "Camille," he said, "it's not just the company anymore. Someone tried to break into my apartment tonight. I'm fine, but this..." This is crossing a line. Camille pulled him inside and locked the door. They're trying to rattle us, to make us pull back. Andre shook his head. This isn't just rattling. This is war. The next morning, Camille convened a crisis meeting. Security is priority one, she told her team. I want guards on every hub, every distribution center. Track all employees for signs of infiltration, and personal protection for senior staff. Chloe looked uneasy. Camille, you too. I'm not the one they can scare into leaving. You're the one they have to scare or remove. Camille didn't flinch. Let them try. But behind her bravado, Camille felt the weight of every threat. She kept replaying the anonymous message in her mind. They're coming for you. At night, she lay awake listening for footsteps outside her door. 2 weeks later, Streetwise was hit with another blow. A whistleblower, a former driver, claimed in a viral video that Streetwise forced workers to take dangerous routes and underpaid them. Total fabrication, Andre said, slamming his laptop shut. The guy was fired for stealing tips. Doesn't matter, Chloe said. It's trending. Media's eating it up. Stockholders are spooked. Camille stood silent for a long moment. Set up an independent audit, she said finally. Prove we're clean, and launch a driver support hotline. Show them we're listening. Andre frowned. You're bending over backward for lies. I'm building trust, Camille corrected. Trust is our only weapon. Meanwhile, Thomas Granger met with his inner circle in New York. She's still standing, one executive said, even after Project Blackout and the smear campaigns. Granger's eyes narrowed. Then we up the ante. Find her where it hurts most. How? Granger smirked. Find her family. That night, Camille's mother received a strange phone call. This is a courtesy warning, a male voice said. Tell your daughter to walk away, or we won't be so polite next time. Her mother clutched the phone, shaking. Who is this? Click. When Camille heard, she flew home immediately. Mama, I'm sorry, she said, hugging her tightly. I should have seen this coming. Her mother cupped her face. Baby, don't let them win. Don't let them scare you off. I didn't raise you to run. Tears threatened, but Camille swallowed them down. I won't run, I swear. Back in Atlanta, Camille addressed her staff. They're not just attacking Streetwise anymore. They're attacking us, our families, our lives. You have every right to walk away, but I'm staying, because if we don't stand now, they'll do this to someone else tomorrow. Not a single person left the room. 3 days later, Camille received a summons. She was to appear before a Senate subcommittee investigating anti-competitive practices in food delivery. This is Granger's doing, Chloe said. Camille nodded. Then I'll give them a show they'll never forget. At the hearing, Camille sat before rows of suited politicians and cameras broadcasting live nationwide. Senator Bristow leaned forward. Miss Johnson, your company has grown from a garage startup to a billion-dollar competitor in less than 3 years. Some allege this growth comes at the expense of worker safety and fair competition. How do you respond? Camille met his gaze, steady and unflinching. I started Streetwise because I was tired of watching delivery drivers, people like me, be treated like disposable parts. We're not perfect, but we're trying to build something better, safer, fairer. And if that threatens entrenched interests, maybe the problem isn't us. It's them. The room erupted in murmurs. Afterward, media headlines split. Camille Johnson faces Senate fire with poise. Delivery queen or monopolist? The Streetwise question. That night, Camille received another anonymous message. Last chance to step down. Next time, there won't be a warning. Camille stared at her reflection in the dark window, then turned to Chloe. Prepare for a fight. This time, we take it to them. Camille stood in the middle of the war room as a map of the U.S. glowed on the wall, dotted with Streetwise hubs, delivery routes, and competitor choke points. Granger's been on offense too long, she said. It's time we hit back. Chloe crossed her arms. You're talking about counterattacks. I'm talking about outsmarting him at his own game. Step 1. Camille greenlit the rollout of Project Phoenix, a secret initiative to expand Streetwise into mid-sized cities QuickBite had long ignored. While Granger focuses on destroying us in the big markets, we'll quietly lock down the second-tier cities, Andre explained. By the time he notices, it'll be too late. Camille nodded. Build relationships with local governments. Offer better driver incentives. Make us indispensable. Step 2. Streetwise struck strategic partnerships with grocery chains and pharmacies to diversify their delivery ecosystem. It's not just food anymore, Camille told the press conference. It's medicine, essentials, even school supplies. We're here to serve entire communities. Headlines exploded. Streetwise reinvents delivery again. Camille Johnson, visionary or vigilante? Step 3 came quietly but hit hardest. Camille authorized her legal team to file antitrust complaints against QuickBite in 3 states, alleging predatory practices and worker exploitation. This will drag their name through the mud, Chloe said. And buy us breathing room, Camille added. But Granger wasn't idle. 2 weeks later, Streetwise drivers in Chicago found their accounts mysteriously locked, stranding hundreds mid-shift. This isn't a glitch, Andre said, pacing. They've bribed someone inside our tech contractor. Find the mole and cut them out, Camille ordered. And the drivers? Chloe asked. Camille picked up her phone. I'll tell them myself. A live stream began within an hour. Camille appeared, her tone calm but fiery. To our drivers in Chicago, I know you're angry. I would be too. But this was sabotage. I promise you, we're working night and day to fix it. And when we do, those who tried to break us will regret ever underestimating you. The following morning, an internal investigation uncovered the mole, a senior systems engineer on QuickBite's payroll. Press charges, Camille said coldly, and make it public. The tide began to shift. Employees at QuickBite started leaking internal memos showing Granger's ruthless tactics. News outlets reported growing unrest among their drivers. Chloe handed Camille a printout. Polls show public sentiment swinging back in our favor. People see you as the underdog. Camille shook her head. I'm not interested in being the underdog. I want to win. But victory came at a price. One late night, Camille was leaving a meeting when a black SUV cut her off. 2 masked men jumped out, grabbing her by the arms. She fought wildly, landing a kick to one man's knee. Before Chloe and Andre arrived, their car screeching to a halt. The attackers fled. Chloe was shaking. Camille, that wasn't random. That was a warning. Camille's eyes blazed. Then here's my warning. Next time they try, I won't miss. The incident pushed Camille to take an uncharacteristic step. She hired a full-time security team. I hate hiding behind guards, she admitted to her mother over the phone. Honey, you're not hiding, she said gently. You're living to fight another day. Don't let pride get you killed. Camille closed her eyes. Yeah, you're right. Weeks later, Camille received a call from Senator Bristow. Miss Johnson, I thought you'd like to know. QuickBite's antitrust troubles are snowballing. The FTC has opened an inquiry. Camille allowed herself a small smile. Thank you, Senator. I suspect this is only the beginning. But Granger wasn't finished. At a board meeting in Manhattan, he slammed his fist on the table. She's bleeding us dry. I want her eliminated from this industry permanently. How? A nervous VP asked. Granger's smile was chilling. Her company's too popular to kill outright. So we kill her. As Camille worked late one night, a sniper's scope settled on her office window, but just as the trigger finger tightened, Camille leaned down to pick up a dropped pen. The shot shattered the glass above her head. Sirens bared as her security team swarmed. Camille stood amidst the chaos, glass shards in her hair. Her phone buzzed with a single text. You don't get a third warning. She stared at it for a long moment. Then she whispered, Neither do you.
Camille refused to leave the office, even with the bullet hole still etched into her window. You're insane, Chloe said, pacing as security teams reinforced the building. They literally tried to assassinate you. Camille stood by the window, staring out at the Atlanta skyline. That's exactly why I can't leave. If I run now, they've won. Andre clenched his jaw. At least let us relocate you to a secure facility. You're no good to us dead. Camille turned, her eyes steely. They don't want me dead. Not yet. They want me scared. I won't give them the satisfaction.
Meanwhile, Streetwise's internal operations hummed with quiet determination. Project Phoenix had successfully launched in 15 new cities, with driver applications up 40%. People see us as the safer bet, Chloe reported, and QuickBite's driver walkouts aren't helping them. Andre added, FTC just announced a full antitrust investigation into QuickBite. They're bleeding stock value daily. Camille gave a nod. Good, but don't think for a second Granger's finished. He's cornered now. That makes him dangerous. Granger, in fact, was unraveling. At QuickBite's New York headquarters, he berated his senior executives. She's still standing, he bellowed. After sabotage, smear campaigns, and a hit squad, she's still there, building her empire. We could consider a merger offer. Buy her out, a nervous VP spoke up. Buy her out? She's a cockroach. You don't negotiate with cockroaches. You exterminate them. That night, Camille received an unexpected visit from Senator Bristow. Miss Johnson, I have reason to believe Granger's influence reaches deeper than we thought, he said gravely. Judges, regulators, even law enforcement. You're not just fighting a company, you're fighting a machine. Camille folded her arms. Then we break the machine. As Streetwise's public profile grew, so did Camille's. She was invited to speak at the National Women's Business Summit. Cameras flashed as she stepped on stage, radiant in a sharp white suit. 3 years ago, I was delivering pizzas. Now I run a company challenging billionaires. People ask me how. The answer? I never let fear dictate my next move. And neither should you. The audience rose to its feet, applause thundering. Back at headquarters, Chloe pulled Camille aside. Camille, I've been reviewing intel from our private security firm. There's chatter. Granger's planning something big. They call it Operation Eclipse. What is it? Camille asked. They're going after your drivers. Coordinated attacks on delivery routes, vandalism, threats. The goal is to break morale and force mass resignations. Camille's jaw tightened. Then we'll get ahead of it. Deploy roving security on every major route, double hazard pay, and personally call every driver affected. The first attack came 3 nights later. A Streetwise van was torched in Miami. The driver escaped unharmed but shaken. Camille flew to Miami the next morning, standing in the charred remains of the van as reporters swarmed. To whoever did this, hear me loud and clear. We don't intimidate you. You only prove why we exist. We're here to protect our people, and we're not going anywhere. QuickBite's board began to fracture. This war is bleeding us dry, one director said. Perhaps it's time to negotiate. Granger slammed his fist down. Negotiate with her? Never. This ends my way or not at all. But doubts lingered in the room. At Streetwise headquarters, Camille and her team prepared for their boldest move yet, the launch of Streetwise Direct, a subscription service offering ultra-fast delivery, premium driver benefits, and community investment initiatives. This isn't just about competing, Camille said. It's about redefining the industry. Andre raised an eyebrow. You know Granger will see this as a declaration of total war. Camille smiled grimly. Good. Let him. 2 days later, Camille's mother called, her voice tight with fear. There were men outside the house, Camille. They said if you don't step down, they'll hurt me. Camille's hands shook as she gripped the phone. Mama, I'm getting you on a plane tonight. You're coming here where it's safe. I won't hide, her mother said softly. I raised a fighter. I won't let them make me a hostage. Camille's eyes burned with unshed tears. They'll regret this. The next morning, Camille addressed her employees via livestream. They've crossed every line, attacked our people, threatened our families, but Streetwise was built on resilience. We don't break, we build. And together, we will outlast them. The chat erupted. Streetwise strong! We got your back! Bring it on! That night, Camille received the final message from Granger's camp. Final warning, sell or suffer. Camille stared at this, her jaw set. Time's up, Thomas. She deleted the message and turned to Chloe. Activate every contingency plan. Call every ally. Tomorrow, we go all in. Camille didn't sleep the night before Streetwise Direct's launch. She sat in her office, staring at the glowing city lights below. Somewhere out there, thousands of her drivers were preparing for what could be the riskiest day in Streetwise's history. "You know it's a gamble," Chloe had warned earlier. "Everything worth building is," Camille had replied. At 6 a.m., Streetwise Direct went live. Within hours, subscriptions poured in. Customers loved the promise of faster delivery, healthier meals, and drivers earning living wages. By noon, the number of new users crashed Streetwise servers. "Good problem to have," Andre said as the IT team scrambled. Camille only allowed herself a small smile. "We're not there yet." Granger goes to hit back. Hard. The retaliation began that evening. Dozens of Streetwise drivers reported slashed tires, threatening notes left on windshields, and masked men blocking routes in key cities. "We've never seen this level of coordination," Chloe said, reviewing security reports. "It's military precision." "They're desperate," Camille said. "And desperation makes people sloppy. Find the links, expose them." 2 days later, they had a breakthrough. A hacker collective sympathetic to Streetwise uncovered internal quick-bite emails planning the attacks. "We've got timestamps, names, even payment records," Andre said, eyes wide. "This isn't just corporate sabotage, it's organized crime." "Leak it," Camille ordered. "Won't we face blowback?" Chloe asked. Camille's eyes burned with fire. "Not as much as they will." The leak exploded across global media. QuickBite orchestrated attacks on rival drivers, leaked emails show. CEO Thomas Granger implicated in sabotage campaign. Within 48 hours, Granger was subpoenaed. Stock in QuickBite plummeted. Shareholders demanded his resignation. But Granger refused to go quietly. In a private call to Camille, his voice was venom. "You think you've won, but I'll burn it all down before I let you take my empire. Your empire's already burning, and I'm just the spark." That night, Camille's penthouse was breached. 2 masked intruders disabled her security system and slipped inside. Camille, working late, noticed the flicker of movement in her peripheral vision. She didn't hesitate. She grabbed the heavy glass paperweight from her desk and hurled it at the first man. The second lunged for her. She ducked, grabbed a pen, and drove it into his forearm. He howled, dropping his knife. By the time her security team arrived, both men were gone, leaving behind only bloody footprints. Camille sat on the floor, hands shaking, chest heaving. Chloe kneeled beside her. "You're done staying here alone. Non-negotiable." Camille nodded silently. 3 days later, Granger's empire collapsed. Federal agents raided QuickBite's headquarters. Granger was taken out in handcuffs as cameras flashed. "Thomas Granger, you're under arrest for conspiracy, corporate espionage, and racketeering." Camille watched the footage from her office, expression unreadable. "It's over," Andre said softly. Camille shook her head. "No, it's just the beginning." Streetwise's victory sent ripples through the business world. Camille was invited to speak at Harvard Business School. She met with world leaders about ethical gig work models. But she remained grounded. "Every success came at a cost," she told her team. "We honor it by building better, not just bigger." At home, Camille finally allowed herself to relax. Her mother sipped tea on the balcony, smiling at the view. "You're still my little girl. But now you're the little girl who changed the world." Camille laughed, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Maybe, but I couldn't have done it alone." Her mother took her hand. "And you never will." That night, Camille stood by her window, phone in hand. A message flashed from Chloe. Streetwise just hit 50 million subscribers. Camille smiled faintly. Then she whispered to herself, "We built this, and no one will ever tear it down."
The boardroom of Streetwise HQ was unrecognizable. Once a space of frantic strategy sessions and war room energy, it now buzzed with celebration. Balloons floated in Streetwise colors, a massive banner reading 50 million strong hung from the ceiling, and employees from across the country filled the room, laughing and clinking glasses. But Camille Johnson stood at the edge, hands wrapped around a glass of sparkling water, watching with a quiet intensity. "Everyone's here for you," Chloe said softly, stepping beside her. "They're here because of us," Camille corrected. "Because of every driver who braved late nights and broken systems. because of every customer who believed we could do better. You don't sound happy, Chloe noted. I'm grateful, but I can't shake the feeling it's not over. Not really. She was right. While Granger rotted in a federal detention center awaiting trial, rumors swirled of QuickBite's new interim CEO, a ruthless Wall Street veteran known only as Whitlock. Whitlock's not Granger, Andre warned during a private meeting. He won't get his hands dirty. He'll use proxies, shell companies, lawfare, slow strangulation instead of brute force. Camille's jaw tightened. Then we don't give him the chance. The next day, Camille convened her top executives. It's time to expand globally, she declared. Europe, Asia, Africa. We've proven the model here. Let's take it to the world. Andre raised a brow. Aggressive? It has to be, Camille said. Either we scale or risk someone else replicating us poorly. Chloe nodded. We'll need partnerships with local governments, cultural consultants, and... Camille held up a hand. Whatever it takes. Streetwise isn't just a company anymore. It's a movement. As Streetwise began its global push, Camille traveled relentlessly. In London, she spoke at a summit on ethical AI. In Lagos, she announced a joint venture to empower female entrepreneurs. In Mumbai, she visited local delivery teams, handing out bonuses personally. Everywhere she went, cameras followed. Articles praised her as the face of a kinder capitalism, but not everyone was applauding. One evening in Berlin, Camille's hotel room phone rang. Miss Johnson, we've received credible threats against your life from an Eastern European syndicate tied to QuickBite's old security contractors, her head of security said. Camille closed her eyes briefly. Double the detail. Notify local authorities, but I'm not canceling tomorrow's keynote. Back in Atlanta, Chloe and Andre worked tirelessly to keep Streetwise's home base steady. But Chloe noticed something alarming: Camille's health. She hasn't stopped in months, Chloe told Andre in a hushed voice. She's thinner, tired. There are days she barely eats. She's holding the weight of the world, Andre said. But you're right. We need to intervene. On a rare day off, Camille's mother visited her penthouse. You've done enough, Camille, she said gently. Don't let this dream consume you. Camille looked out over the city, eyes weary. I can't stop, Mama. Not yet. Her mother took her hand. Then promise me you'll take care of yourself. You can't lead a revolution from a hospital bed. Camille gave a small, tired smile. Promise. But even as she pushed forward, a different battle brewed inside her. At night she lay awake, questioning her choices. The lives risked, the friends alienated. The woman she used to be. The delivery driver with a battered Honda and a dream felt like a stranger. Am I still her? She whispered to the empty room. In December, Streetwise celebrated its global launch with a gala in New York. Celebrities and dignitaries filled the venue, praising Camille's vision. When she took the stage, the room hushed. Streetwise was never just about delivery. It's about dignity, for drivers, for customers, for communities. And this is only the beginning. The crowd erupted in applause. But in the shadows, Whitlock watched from a balcony, his expression unreadable. As the room cheered, he muttered under his breath, "Enjoy it while it lasts."
Camille woke before dawn in her Manhattan hotel suite. The gala had been a dazzling success, but now her body felt hollow, her mind buzzing with unease. She stared at her reflection in the mirror, the perfect image of a titan, immaculate hair, tailored suit, eyes rimmed with fatigue no concealer could hide. She hated what she saw. At breakfast, Chloe joined her with an urgent tone. Whitlock is moving. 2 countries have filed injunctions against Streetwise over unfair competition. His fingerprints are all over it, but we can't prove anything yet. Camille stirred her coffee silently. We anticipated this. Did we? Chloe pressed. Or did we get so caught up in winning that we forgot they'd never play fair? Camille set her cup down, eyes sharp. Then we changed the game again. In Atlanta, Andre coordinated a strategy session with the legal and international teams. This isn't just litigation, he said grimly. Whitlock is weaponizing geopolitics. If we don't tread carefully, we could get banned outright in key markets. Then we'll tread carefully, Camille said via video call. And if careful fails, we'll innovate faster than they can attack. But even as she spoke, her voice lacked its usual steel. That evening, alone in her suite, Camille scrolled through old photos on her phone. There she was at 25, grinning next to her first delivery car, a beat-up Civic. She'd believed anything was possible then, believed in people, in dreams, in herself. Now the world called her Madame CEO, but she couldn't remember the last time she felt like Camille. Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock. It was Senator Bristow. "You look exhausted," he said bluntly. "Nice to see you too. Listen, Whitlock's been lobbying Washington hard. He's positioning Streetwise as a national security threat because of your overseas ties. You need allies in Congress before this snowballs." Camille sighed. "Another battlefield. Another chance to prove why they need you," Bristow countered. Back at HQ, Chloe confronted Andre. "She's burning out. We need to step in before she collapses." Andre nodded. "But how? She won't listen to reason when she's in fight mode." "Maybe not to us, but what about her drivers? She built this for them. Maybe hearing from them will remind her who she's fighting for." The next morning, Camille's inbox was flooded. Hundreds of messages from Streetwise drivers worldwide. "You changed my life, Camille. Please take care of yours. We stand with you, but we need you standing too. Don't let them take your light." Reading them, Camille felt her throat tighten. The pressure kept mounting. In a single week, Streetwise faced hackers crashing servers in Brazil, protests in Paris funded by quick-bite shell groups, a fake scandal in Japan claiming Streetwise exploited workers. Camille spent sleepless nights on calls, her voice hoarse but unyielding. But inside, cracks were forming. One night, she collapsed in the bathroom. Chloe found her slumped against the tiles, pale and shaking. "I'm fine," she croaked. "You're not fine," Chloe said fiercely. "You're killing yourself for this company." Camille's eyes fluttered open. "Then it's a worthy death." "No!" Chloe shouted, tears streaming. "It's not. You didn't build Streetwise alone, and you won't save it alone either." Camille spent 2 days in the hospital under strict orders to rest. As she lay staring at the ceiling, Chloe visited, placing a tablet in her hands. "It's a live stream," Chloe said. Camille watched in silence as thousands of drivers rallied worldwide, holding Streetwise banners, chanting her name, promising to stand firm. "They believe in you," Chloe whispered, "but they need you alive." For the first time in months, Camille allowed herself to cry, not out of fear or weakness, but out of relief. She wasn't alone. 3 days later, Camille returned to HQ. She called an all-hands meeting. "I've made mistakes," she admitted. "I carried too much on my own, but Streetwise isn't about one person. It's about all of us. So from now on, we lead together." The room erupted in applause. Chloe squeezed her hand. "Welcome back, Camille." Camille smiled faintly. "Let's finish this fight." The sun hadn't risen yet when Camille stepped onto the rooftop of Streetwise's Atlanta headquarters. The skyline stretched out before her, a glittering tapestry of opportunity and danger. She inhaled deeply, tasting the cool morning air. Today would decide everything. Downstairs, Chloe and Andre waited in the war room. Screens displayed live updates from across Streetwise's global operations. "Whitlock's latest move?" Camille asked as she strode in. "Coordinated lawsuits filed in 6 countries overnight. They're trying to freeze assets. And in Washington? Senate hearings start today," Chloe said. "Whitlock's lobbying arm is spinning you as a foreign threat again, but Bristow's ready to counter." Camille nodded. "Good. Let's give them more to fight with." By mid-morning, Camille appeared via video at the Senate hearing. She faced a panel of skeptical lawmakers. "Ms. Johnson, your company operates in over 50 countries. How do we know Streetwise isn't a Trojan horse for foreign influence?" one senator challenged. Camille met his gaze steadily. "Streetwise was founded in Atlanta,
by a single mother who worked 16-hour days delivering food to keep the lights on. It isn't a Trojan horse. It's the American dream, scaled globally so no worker gets left behind. The chamber stirred. Cameras flashed. Meanwhile, Chloe coordinated with grassroots organizers. Across the country, streetwise drivers held rallies outside courthouses and city halls. They carried signs, "Streetwise equals fair pay. We stand with Camille. No more gig exploitation." The media loved it. Networks ran split screens of Camille's testimony and drivers chanting in the streets. Whitlock's narrative began to crack. But he wasn't finished. In a sleek Manhattan skyscraper, Whitlock met with QuickBite's remaining board members. "She's winning the public, so we take her out of the public," Whitlock said coldly. "You mean?" a board member asked nervously. "I mean we bury her in litigation until her company bleeds dry. And if that fails," he trailed off, his eyes glittering with menace. Late that night, Camille received a call from an anonymous number. "You've made powerful enemies, Ms. Johnson. They don't want to destroy Streetwise. They want to destroy you." "Let them try," Camille said flatly. The next day, Camille hosted a global press conference. She stood tall, flanked by drivers from every continent. "We're not backing down," she declared. "We've built a system that works for everyone: drivers, customers, communities, and no amount of intimidation will undo it." The crowd erupted in applause. But in the back row, a man in a dark suit watched silently. Whitlock's eyes never left Camille. As the battle escalated, Camille worked around the clock, barely sleeping. But she wasn't alone anymore. Chloe stayed by her side, organizing teams and shielding her from burnout. Andre handled finances, ensuring Streetwise stayed solvent through the storm. And the drivers, thousands of them, became her army. They weren't just fighting for a company, they were fighting for their lives. In a rare quiet moment, Camille sat in her office staring at a photo of herself at 18, back when she was just a girl with a dream and a beat-up car. "Would she recognize me?" Camille whispered. Chloe appeared in the doorway. "She'd be proud," Chloe said softly. Camille looked up, her eyes glistening. Would she? She'd see a woman who never stopped fighting. That's enough. As Camille prepared for the final showdown, a global arbitration hearing that could make or break Streetwise, she stood before her team. "I can't promise we'll win, but I promise we'll fight like hell." They all stood, clapping and cheering. Camille closed her eyes for a moment, absorbing their strength. When she opened them, her voice was steel. "Let's end this."
The International Trade Arbitration Court in Geneva was a gleaming monument to order and power. Its marbled halls echoed with the footsteps of world leaders and billionaires, and now Camille Johnson's heels joined the chorus as she entered flanked by her legal team. This was it, the last battlefield. One ruling today would decide if Streetwise could continue its global operations or if Whitlock's legal blitzkrieg would crush everything Camille had built. Inside, Whitlock was already seated, smug in his tailored suit. His piercing eyes tracked Camille like a predator. "Miss Johnson," he said with mock warmth, "I hope your team got enough sleep. This won't take long." Camille offered a cool, professional smile. "We'll see about that." The arbitration panel, 3 distinguished jurists from different continents, called the hearing to order. "Today we examine allegations of unfair competition, predatory pricing, and violations of labor laws filed against Streetwise Incorporated." Whitlock's attorneys struck first. For hours they presented charts, emails taken out of context, and witness testimonies from disgruntled ex-contractors. "This company has skirted international labor regulations and weaponized its size to crush competition," Whitlock's lead counsel thundered. "It is a danger to free markets." Camille sat still, hands folded, eyes focused. When it was her turn, she rose. Her voice was calm, even gentle.
Streetwise didn't crush competition. We exposed it. We showed the world there's a better way to treat workers and customers alike. That isn't a threat to markets. It's the future of them. She presented evidence of fair wages, transparent practices, and global community reinvestment. Videos of drivers telling their stories played on the big screen. Streetwise let me pay off my house. For the first time, I have benefits. I'm not just a number anymore. As Camille spoke, the jurists leaned forward. Even Whitlock's smirk faltered. This wasn't the CEO he'd painted as ruthless and greedy. This was a woman who carried the hopes of millions. During a recess, Camille retreated to a quiet courtyard. Her phone buzzed. Chloe's voice came through. Protests are erupting worldwide. Drivers are gathering outside courthouses and embassies. Hashtags are trending. Hashtag We Are Streetwise and hashtag Stand with Camille. Camille let out a long breath. I hope it's enough. It will be, Chloe assured her. You taught us all how to fight. Back in the chamber, the panel reconvened. Whitlock's counsel delivered their final rebuttal, dripping with venom. Streetwise is a populist project destined to fail. Letting it operate sets a dangerous precedent. Camille stood for her closing argument. She spoke not like a CEO, but like the delivery driver she once was. I know what it's like to skip meals because you can't afford them. To drive 16 hours on bald tires because you need one more tip to cover rent. Streetwise was built to end that cycle, not just for me, but for every worker who deserves dignity. She met the panel's eyes. This isn't about precedent. It's about people. Hours passed as the panel deliberated. Camille sat stone-faced, heart pounding in her ears. At last, the lead jurist returned. The panel has reached its decision. A pause heavy enough to crush lungs. We rule in favor of Streetwise Incorporated. Camille felt the room tilt as a wave of relief crashed over her. Streetwise had survived. But Whitlock didn't flinch. He rose smoothly, buttoning his jacket. Congratulations, he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. But this isn't over. Camille watched him leave, her own expression unreadable. No, she whispered. It's just beginning. That night in Geneva, Camille stood on her hotel balcony overlooking the twinkling city lights. Chloe joined her with 2 glasses of champagne. You won, she said softly. We won, Camille corrected. Chloe clinked her glass. To Streetwise. Camille hesitated. To the people who believed when I didn't. They drank in silence, the night air cool and clean. But deep down, Camille knew victory carried a price. Streetwise was bigger than ever, but so were its enemies, and she'd need every ounce of strength for what came next.
Camille returned to Atlanta in a private jet, greeted by thunderous applause from Streetwise employees lining the tarmac. Drivers waved hand-painted signs, children sat on parents' shoulders chanting her name, and someone blasted "Rise Up" over a portable speaker. Camille stepped off the plane wearing her signature white blazer and sunglasses, but behind the polished facade, her exhaustion was bone-deep. She raised a hand, acknowledging the cheers with a faint smile. The war was won, but the battlefield still smoldered. Inside headquarters, the leadership team awaited her in the glass-walled boardroom. Chloe, Andre, and the rest rose as Camille entered. "You did it," Andre said simply. "No," Camille corrected, lowering herself into the CEO's chair. "We did it." But celebration was short-lived. QuickBite is hemorrhaging investors since the ruling. Whitlock stock plummeted 18% this morning. "Desperate people make dangerous moves," Camille said.
You think he'll strike again? Andre frowned. Camille's gaze was hard. I know he will. That evening, Camille walked through the warehouse district where Streetwise began. The old garage she'd rented for her first few delivery cars still stood, abandoned now, its windows cracked and weeds creeping up the walls. She ran her fingers over the rusted door handle, memories rushing back. A younger Camille, broke and scared, but stubbornly hopeful. A beat-up Civic and a dream no one believed in. The nights she slept in the back seat with cold fries for dinner. She whispered to her younger self, "You were right not to give up." Her phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. "BBC wants an exclusive interview. They're calling you the tech titan of the people." Camille smiled faintly, but didn't reply. She wasn't ready to speak to the world yet. Meanwhile, Whitlock raged in his Manhattan penthouse. How could we lose to her? A delivery driver? His aide kept a safe distance. She's built a movement. Streetwise isn't just a company anymore. It's a symbol. People love her. Whitlock hurled a glass against the wall. Then we destroy the symbol, whatever it takes. The next day, Camille met with her security chief. "We're increasing protection," he said. "After Geneva, you've become a high-profile target." "I'm not hiding," Camille replied. "With respect, Madam CEO, we're not asking." Back at HQ, Chloe cornered Camille. "You haven't stopped since Geneva. You're running on fumes." "I can't rest," Camille said. "Not while Whitlock's still out there." "You can't fight forever." Camille's eyes hardened. "Watch me." But even titans break. That night, alone in her penthouse overlooking Atlanta, Camille stood at the window, her reflection staring back, strong, untouchable, and utterly alone. She whispered into the glass, "Who am I if I'm not fighting?" The following morning brought unexpected news. QuickBite declared bankruptcy. Whitlock vanished from the public eye. For the first time in years, Camille felt free. Her phone rang. It was her mother. "Baby," her mother said softly, "you sound tired." "I'm fine, Mama. You've built an empire, but don't forget to build a life too." Camille closed her eyes. "I don't know how anymore." "Then it's time to learn." Later, Camille met Chloe at a quiet cafe. "You've been thinking," Chloe said knowingly. "I have." Camille stirred her coffee. "For years, I've been fighting to keep Streetwise alive, but maybe it's time to let it breathe without me." Chloe's eyes widened. "You're stepping down?" "I'm considering it." Across the world, Streetwise drivers held spontaneous celebrations. They'd won, not just against Whitlock, but against a system that told them they didn't matter. Camille watched the videos with a lump in her throat. She typed a message to her team. "Let's talk succession planning." Then she set her phone aside and walked out into the Atlanta night, for once without bodyguards or cameras. For the first time in years, she felt light. As she strolled through a quiet park, children's laughter echoing in the distance, Camille whispered to herself, "You can build a life now." And for the first time, she believed it.
The Atlanta skyline shimmered in the golden light of sunset as Camille sat in her corner office one last time. Papers were stacked neatly, family photos and plaques had been boxed. Only the view remained unchanged, a reminder of how far she'd come. Chloe entered quietly, holding a folder. "It's official. The board approved your transition plan unanimously." Camille nodded. "Good. Who's leaking it to the press first?" "Probably everyone. They're calling it the end of an era." "Not the end, just my chapter." Across social media, news of Camille's departure dominated headlines. Streetwise CEO steps down after global victory. Camille Johnson from delivery driver to legend. What's next for the woman who changed the gig economy? Drivers posted heartfelt messages. "She gave us dignity. Camille, your family to millions of us, thank you for fighting when no one else would." Later that evening, Camille walked through the Streetwise headquarters for the last time. Employees lined the hallways clapping as she passed. Some reached out to touch her hand, others simply whispered, "Thank you." Camille smiled at each one, her heart full. At the exit, Chloe waited. "Are you sure about this?" Chloe asked. "I'm sure," Camille said. This company doesn't need me to survive anymore. That was the goal all along. Chloe hugged her tightly. Then go find your next dream. That night, Camille returned to her modest house in College Park, the first home she'd ever owned. She sat on the porch steps barefoot, watching kids ride bikes down the street. A neighbor waved. "Evening, Miss Johnson." "Evening," she replied. For the first time in years, no one called her CEO. It felt strangely comforting. A week later, Camille attended a private dinner with former Streetwise drivers turned entrepreneurs. They spoke of new businesses they'd launched, community programs they'd funded, families they'd supported. "You didn't just change the gig economy," one said. "You changed us." Camille raised her glass. "You changed yourselves. I just lit a match. You carried the torch." Meanwhile, Whitlock was spotted boarding a plane to Dubai. Journalists speculated about his next move. Some said he planned a new tech venture, others whispered about criminal investigations. But Camille no longer cared. He was part of her past. In early spring, Camille traveled to Ghana on a quiet sabbatical. She wandered markets in Accra, hiked through lush forests, and stood in awe before the Cape Coast Castle, reflecting on the journeys of those who came before her. One evening, she journaled by candlelight. "For years, I thought fighting was the only way to matter. But maybe healing is too." Back in Atlanta, Chloe sent her updates. Streetwise revenue up 14%. Drivers voted to unionize under our new framework, zero opposition. The world's still watching us, but in a good way. Camille smiled, setting her phone aside. She'd built something enduring. Weeks later, Camille returned home. She visited her mother's grave with a bouquet of lilies. "Hey, Mama, we did it." The breeze rustled the trees. "You always told me to build a life, not just a legacy. I think I'm ready to try." At a small community center, Camille signed up as a volunteer tutor for high school students. Her first day, a nervous girl approached her. "Are you Camille Johnson?" "I used to be," Camille said with a warm smile. The girl grinned shyly. "My friends and I started a little delivery app for our neighborhood. You inspired us." Camille knelt to the girl's level. "Then promise me something. Build it with heart. Make it better than I ever could." The girl nodded fiercely. "I will." That night, Camille looked at the stars from her porch swing. For the first time, there was no battle plan, no looming deadline, no war to fight. Only peace. And in the quiet, she whispered, "This is what freedom feels like."